I saw that. I came to crypto. I was at a conference and I saw that there's barely any women. Then I attended a hackathon. Same problem. Barely any women. I was like, wow, this is creating so much value and no women are in, because once you're in and you have understood whom to talk to and who are your networks and so on, you navigate that jungle, then you can contribute. Web3 is helping to democratize this and bring down the costs, because we have global transaction systems that can work peer-to-peer. What Web2 did. This is where we are all at the moment in Web2, slightly transitioning to Web3. It brought down the cost of communication to zero. That's my number one. Start strategically. Look at the map, what is there, then try to follow that along a purpose. Always have a purpose. Find really a buddy, someone who just go to a community event. It's fun to do it in community. It will also take time, but I'm really optimistic about the future of women participation in tech.
Welcome to today's episode of Just the Metrics, where we dive into the world of AI and blockchain with the inspiring Yip Tee Deep Ta, CEO of Jedi. Yip blends AI, blockchain, and social entrepreneurship to forge paths for a more inclusive tech world. She shares her entrepreneurial journey with the goal of shaping the future of technology for social good. But more than just stories, Yip offers a clear step-by-step guide for anyone looking to start their adventure in crypto and tech, emphasizing the importance of community and a hands-on approach. So whether you're new to blockchain or seeking ways to make tech more equitable, you are here at the right place. And yeah, let's just jump in and start the conversation with Yip. I'm really lucky and fortunate that you are here today. So welcome to the channel and to the show, Yip. When I was looking into your profile, it was really impressive what you did already in so many different domains and topics. And that's why I think it's totally interesting today to dig into your projects, your work a little bit. And maybe you can share your insights from diverse topics like mindfulness, blockchain topics, and also AI. Maybe you can tell me where we should start, because where would you go back? To which point in life would you go back that you say, okay, now I realize I would be like a founder, I would be like an entrepreneur, I would go like this path where I develop something on my own?
Oh, wow. So I think I have been more or less an entrepreneur all my life. But one very remarkable moment was 2008, 2006, actually, because that was the year when I read in the news that a person named Muhammad Yunus received the Peace Nobel Prize for his works in social entrepreneurship and in particular in microfinance. What he did was he noticed there was a big problem in the banking, in the finance sector, which led to a lot of social inequity. In particular, it was about access to liquidity, access to credit. So, and a majority of the part of population in Bangladesh and everywhere in the world that didn't have enough collateral would not receive access to finance by the banks. And the only options they had left was horrendous interest rates and to get access to credit from pawnbrokers, which 20% plus an interest rate. And then he was like, this is actually quite unfair. Can we actually use capitalism in a way that it doesn't exclude people? Because finance is a very vital contribution to financial health and well-being, and thereby to economic contribution. When we exclude a vast majority of people, then our world cannot function on a healthy level. And I was quite impressed by that. I was like, wow, this is a smart way to use capitalism, because capitalism in itself is not bad. And then I learned a lot about social entrepreneurship. In effect, I think I had my first company at age 20, at age 17. I ran an event agency that would host hip hop events in the clubs in my rural area. I grew up very close to Stuttgart, but in the rural area. So in a city that had less than 25,000 inhabitants. And I was a big fan of American subculture, in particular American hip hop and rap. And obviously in the rural areas in Germany, you can imagine there was not a lot of demand for this. So I was like, how could I really get to enjoy the music I really care about and don't have to travel far? It's expensive to travel far, right? So I was like, how can I bring it to me? And this was inspired also by this Mohammed Yunus, who said, how can we, instead of asking the poor to go to the banks and have to prove to them that they are trustworthy and so on, how can we tweak the system in a way that we bring the finance to the poor or to those who cannot receive credits based on regular standards? And I took the same idea, not on social impact, but just on getting good music to my rural area. Good music obviously was defined by my preferences by that time for hip hop music. I was like, okay, let me found an event agency. Then I can book the DJs I care about, bring them there and have an opportunity for my peers and others who love that subculture to not need to go to the next big city. It's also dangerous. Like there's no trains at night, and then we have to take a car, and everything is not very safe. So how do we bring it to our community? And then I basically ran a few events similar to the blockchain side event, just for hip hop, and had the graffiti and basketball community coming. And this was really cool. It was not very profitable, as in it's not a tech company, not very scalable, but it served its purpose to connect people and create a platform that represents underrepresented voices. That was the first thing. And then after that, I contributed to many more what I would call social entrepreneurship initiatives, and it went all the way until today. I'm still an entrepreneur.
I think when you say to represent underrepresented voices, this is what I figured is the red thread, which goes through lots of your projects, interests, also where you are volunteering. Was it also later when you discovered blockchain, this strike you? And then you went further down and started initiatives to include those who don't have a voice, who don't have maybe a big share currently in this tech environment. So how did you enter the blockchain space and the AI space, which you are currently very active in?
Yes, I think so. By training, by professional training, I'm a strategy consultant. I studied a lot of business and strategy, and then I helped many of the big organizations and governments to devise strategies that would transform their competitive playing field. And what happened was, that's how I also looked at technology. It was like, where is a lot of value in the economy created? And mainly it comes from the tech industry. Formerly, it was from the finance industry and also from the pharma industry and oil and gas, obviously. But majority of the largest companies in the world by market capitalization are technology companies. Look at the Amazons, the Facebooks, the Googles of this world. And I was like, okay, if tech is driving a majority of our economic value, and if there are no women participating in tech, and I've seen that when I entered the blockchain space, it was just like, this is such a fascinating technology, because the problem with Mohammed Yunus' work was it didn't scale. It was not using technologies, and thereby his beautiful concepts and ideas were not always cost effective, because giving loans to the poor requires microtransactions. When you do not use technology to bring down the cost of transactions and microtransactions, then it's not an economically viable endeavor. That's why you cannot scale across the globe very fast. So I was like, okay, how can we use technology as a force for good? And I checked the technology field. I noticed with own experience, there's not a lot of women there. But that's in the next 2 decades, or even historically before industrialization, after industrialization, where we will have a lot of upside from economic activity. There's no women participation. So basically what happens logically is, okay, we're all on the streets saying we want equality, we want equity. And then it ends up us asking for more salaries. But salaries alone is actually not where the wealth is created. It's created when you own a stake in something that grows with the market, where you can also not only get paid off in cash at the moment, but also have future participation and value that you have contributed to create. And Web3 is a technology that actually catalyzes that. And at first it enables it, and then it catalyzes that. And so I was like, okay, We need to combine technologies and we need to help women on board. Then we can fix the problem of equity and social equity in the world. And this is what I care about. And so basically capitalism, technology, and women. Yeah. And Web3 is just a key stepping point in that. I don't see a world where we can live without Web3 in the future.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's interesting because I think also the wording, the language is like really do your own research, you know what you know. So already these abbreviations or these typical crypto Web3 terms, it's not inclusive, it's more exclusive. You're not allowed to ask questions. Everyone is on their own. And I think this is counterintuitive to how women, like we are more like this, okay, let's work together, this collaborative mindset. And this is right now, the system is a little bit built and also shaped by the wording in a different way, I think. And this is what I think what you do great with, for example, your DLT program or other programs or her DAO. It's more this inclusive community at its roots. So everyone can participate. People are like supported to go along their paths and learn. For example, when you're a developer, how can you have access to tools, conferences, and stuff like that?
Yeah, I saw that. I came to crypto. I was at a conference and I saw that there's barely any women. Then I attended a hackathon. Same problem. Barely any women. I was like, wow, this is creating so much value and no women are in. That means we will not benefit from the value created because we are not in it. We don't know people in it. We don't have the networks. We don't have the access to the deal flow. We don't have the job opportunities. And when we're late and then the community is already built, then there are already inherent power structures and it will be very difficult to break through, similar to what we're seeing in the corporate world, banking, finance, insurance at the moment, that once power dynamics have been established, it will take decades to break them apart again. And now we cannot have that for Web3. It's so early, can still all join, barely a decade old, and there's still room. The system hasn't stabilized yet to the point that you can, like, it's still fluid. Mm-hmm. And one of the things is how there's a lot of blaming, I feel, in the industry or in this discussion about gender equality. I just think it's very rational or logical that things are as they are because people have more important things to do than care about the things that they are not affected by. Mm-hmm. So when you look at Web3 in the bull markets, there was just barely any time to do anything. Things were just building so fast. People were just really building infrastructure, building governance models, building a lot of things that were not there. So you go from like 0 to 1. And in the traditional industries, we go from 9 to 10. We make things a little bit better. And there we have a lot of time to discuss equity and salaries, equal salaries, and well-being. But in Web3, everyone who was in there, every engineer who was in there was really spending 100% of their time building the base infrastructure, figuring out the protocols, the standards, and so on, because there's no standardization yet or big standardization. So you cannot blame people for saying, okay, I have my workload here, and what do I optimize it for? And what we saw is there's not enough awareness, but also not enough priority, but also why should people prioritize including women into it when there's so many other things they still have to build? So you are right about this crypto native. And so on, what I noticed is even when I was a teenager in my peers group, there were a lot of LAN parties, hacker parties. Yeah. And the boys would stay awake all night and play games. What would happen is this is also the community, the gaming community that developed a lot of the Web3 infrastructure layer, culture, certain ways of communication. Everything is basically online with the introduction of the internet at scale. All information you can find in all forums. And when you are not socialized in a way that you like to together work things out, then you can just search everything online. And what I have noticed is when you go to hackathons, and a lot of misconception or misunderstandings between men and women comes from women like to consume information, acquire knowledge in a different way than men. For men, a lot of times I've been asked, why do you need like these coaching sessions, or why do you need these education sessions? All information is freely available on the internet. Just search. So what I've noticed doing a lot of education work is women like to speak with other women or with other people about topics, like to discuss, to reflect, to think about what are the implications for society, what are the implications for my community. And these are topics that I had felt that were not really discussed in a broad way in Web3, just because people are just like, information is there. It doesn't make sense to have extra. It's like inefficient, it costs time to have these discussion platforms. And so I noticed, okay, we have to change the way of distributing information. I noticed women have a different need. So we have these programs where we educate at a very systemic level. Instead of asking everyone to go through all the forum and the internet and find their way and fight their way through it. It's like the information is there, we can structure it in a better way. Then more people can participate that just by preference don't like to search everything online. It's a waste of time. And so we built these education programs, and then we noticed, oh, you go to a conference. Now we have women who understand blockchain because we have educated them. They go to a conference, and what happens is when you don't have your peers, your buddies, your network, you're alone standing there, and your progress in participating in the community is very slow because you have to make new friends and so on, and not everyone is an extrovert. So what you have to do is build or design events where people can network and get to know each other faster, and maybe also meet other like-minded people with similar needs faster. So that's what we did with HerDAO. We found scholarships and grants to enable more women to come to the conferences because conferences are expensive. Housing is expensive, tickets are expensive. And what happens is when you are not in the field yet and don't really buy into the vision of Web3 yet, why would you invest all that money? But if you're not there, it's very hard to get you inspired. Catching an egg problem. We gave grants. We coached, we had women hacker houses that are just designed in a way that I think are more suitable to most of my female friends' needs. So we had this, and we noticed, wow, the cool thing is Web3 is still an industry where when you come in as a newbie, if you start learning, of course, the technical foundations and the business foundation, how this industry works, you can go very fast within 12 months. Like a lot of friends that studied my 6 weeks program, they joined the Web3 industry after. And then they moved very fast from community manager or marketing roles to leadership roles, managing director roles. Because once you're in and you have understood whom to talk to and who are your networks and so on, you navigate that jungle, then you can contribute. And I think this is going to change Web3 and its dynamics is going to change the world. And because so many women can come in and move so fast, it will be one of the industries that will be equitable by contribution super soon, probably before 2030.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. If somebody, you mentioned now the program. So what's the name of the program? If somebody listens now and says, okay, that sounds amazing, I want to know more. Yeah, where would they look?
Okay, so in my earlier career, I was a blockchain founder and I created a 6-week program. It's still live called Unit Masters. It's a 6 weeks program that's free. Then if you're a woman or if you're a non-woman who likes to learn about decentralized finance and so on, the Frankfurt School of Finance has developed these blockchain education programs. The one for women is called DLT Talents. We have 2 cohorts a year. Then there's programs that are called DeFi Talents, NFT Finance. What is a really good program is called the Refi to Finance Talents. That's new, that combines sustainability with decentralized finance. So you can join all of these programs. They're 18 weeks and they're free.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. And I saw also like there are applications for a mentorship. So if somebody might lead a cohort, have a, I don't know, mentor someone. So that's also possible. There are lots of ways to participate, I think, in these programs and yeah, benefit and be part of the community already without feeling, oh, I don't know anything. I don't know where to start. So this is maybe a good way to start joining the space.
Yeah. And Herdown has a lot of initiatives. We are at almost all conferences. We have a booth. You can always find someone and then get invited to their networks, their event. I personally will host a 3-day workshop and retreat called the Sustainer Summit and Unconference Retreat. That will happen in the Crypto Castle, close to Berlin in June. And it's 3.5 days, where on the first and second day, it's more like a summit where you can learn, you have keynotes and master classes about 4 areas. I think the 4 pillars of our economy of tomorrow. One is AI, and the second is Web3. The third one is longevity and health. And the fourth one is consciousness and sustainability. And we basically design our conference programming around these 4 pillars. And it's 3 days in person in a castle remote, away from all distraction.
Sounds like a really interesting conference in Berlin. We can maybe link everything down in the description, so if people are interested, they easily can find their way. You said
yes.
the conference is built on the 4 pillars, and you said the first pillar you mentioned was AI. And I think AI is also the area where you are currently mostly involved with, and you are a co-founder of an AI startup. And maybe you can dig a little bit deeper. And I'm also interested, it's maybe a follow-up question, because you have so many projects and you have like a multitude of interests. Where's your current focus mainly going? How do you manage your time and focus and energy to be active, engaged in all these different things? But yeah, maybe first you can jump into your current coworker, where I was really interested. How is she doing it? It must be like so much energy. Yeah.
But all of this is quite, to me personally, but maybe it's not very evident to others. It all links together. The key thing about Web3 is everything is an ecosystem. We're moving from individual monolithic organizations to ecosystems. That means we're moving from a one stakeholder world to a multi-stakeholder world. And that's the shift. What Web3 does is we are consumers in one kind of bigger entity. 2, we are contributors to a network of entities. That's an ecosystem. So basically, when you want to really prepare yourself and the economy for the next step, that is actually marked by a lot of digital nomads and gig economy, then you basically have to change the processes of value creation from contributing to one entity and being a salaried employee to contributing to several projects that all feed the ecosystem. And Jedi is basically the platform for that. So Jedi is designed to be a decentralized global brain. So even in our name, we already have J3D.ai. We combine AI as a general purpose technology, something that's going to revolutionize our everyday lives, with the financial pillars of Web3 and the ecosystem, economic incentives of Web3. Maybe one step back before I explain what Jedi does. What a lot of people don't understand about blockchain and crypto and Web3 as a umbrella topic is that Web3 will bring down costs of economic exchange to zero. This is going to be fundamental to the way a globalized world works. Because even today we speak about globalization since 25 years. But financially, we are not globalized. When I want to send money to India or to Vietnam or hire someone from this region nowadays, it's not very cost efficient because our financial infrastructures are not made for that. Web3 is helping to democratize this and bring down the costs, because we have global transaction systems that can work peer-to-peer. So you can basically take out a lot of intermediary providers that just take a cut of the cost. You can go peer-to-peer, and thereby the cost will go down. What Web2 did, this is where we are all at the moment in Web2, slightly transitioning to Web3. That was, it brought down the cost of communication to zero. That's like the area of mobile phone, the area of WhatsApp, social media, where I can just communicate with all my peers across the globe for basically zero. It is not expensive anymore to make a phone call to someone who is in a remote area in the other part of the world. That's Web2. We'll go back to the original internet, Web1. That brought down the cost of information to zero. When internet was introduced, what happened was you didn't have to go to the libraries anymore, like physical libraries, that you could sit anywhere with an internet connection and plug into the vast knowledge of the world. So that was the revolution from what one, information costs went down to zero. Everyone could participate in education globally at fair prices. Second, then in the 2000s, the cloud revolution, mobile revolution, cost of communication went down to zero. That connected everyone in the world even more because it became two-sided. The third thing is Web3. That brings down the cost of economic transaction, access, and exchange to zero, which means the entire world will be able to have a stake in each other's business ventures. Everyone in the world, as long as they have access to the Web3 ecosystem, can get access to credits, for example, at the same rates, no matter if you're in Africa, in the rural village, or in the Wall Street. You get the same conditions and terms when you participate in the decentralized exchanges and the DeFi product, the loans. So that's the craziness. You democratize everything. But all of this requires, it's a paradigm shift from going to be a consumer and consuming communication messages to being a contributor that can own and access and reap a share, not only in transactional fees, but in all the value that is created because you own a stake in any project that is going to make a lot of money for everyone. Right now, it's, for example, not so easy to get a stake in OpenAI, right? When a company is not listed, you can't just go to the exchange and buy it. And that's just because IPOs are extremely expensive. When you have ICOs are extremely cost efficient. So you can already, with a very small amount of money, participate in potential value that is being created. It has a lot of downsides, of course. And we need to think about investor protection, retail investor protection, but opportunities are immense. And that all of that enabled Web3 together with AI enabled completely different opportunities. Now you can make everything super fast, scalable. There is this famous chart that showed how long it takes to reach, I think, 1 million users. It took Netflix 3.5 years, and that was 1999. Then it took Facebook in 2004, 10 months to reach the same amount of users. Spotify 2008, it took 5 months. Then Instagram, it took 2.5 months. And ChatGPT, it took 5 days to just reach that. So what you're seeing is there's this double exponential curve. It means that basically the rate of growth grows too. And this is what we're seeing with AI. We basically have now access to the internet, the world's compiled repository of public knowledge at our whims. We just can access it in the way we love to access it, in a humanized, contextual way that helps us talk to the internet in the way we prefer to talk, which is crazy. And now what we can do also is we have also proprietary data and that's what we are doing with Jedi. We think that most of the knowledge and wisdom in collaborative systems and ecosystems comes when humans put their brains to solve a specific quest together. That's a lot of times when you are at panels, at conferences, it's a nice try to emulate that. Different speakers, experts from the field try to answer a question that they might not have answered together before, right? So that's when you create emergent and very proprietary knowledge. And we have the infrastructure to support that in two ways. One is with Jedi, we basically build up a proprietary knowledge repository where we bring knowledge that is generated at conventions where experts speak with each other into a structured way. And then you can access that structured knowledge in the same way you can use ChatGPT to access the internet, human history's knowledge, right, of the past, whenever everything that was fed into the internet. And with Jedi, you can access all the repository of wisdom that comes from the 4 pillars of economy that I just laid out earlier, from AI and AGI, from Web3 and governance topics, from sustainability, green energy, and then consciousness and longevity and health. We have these pillars where we say there's a lot of wisdom that is being generated that is not accessible in a very structured way and at the speed needed that we can use AI to propel innovation. And we built a platform for that. So everyone can contribute to that knowledge brain by uploading their own information, generating conferences, but everyone can also pull that information in a very simple way, in a humanized way. And we say that this will enable collaboration at scale in an ecosystem approach. And when collaboration becomes economically more profitable than competition, then we can also have a situation where peace becomes more profitable than war, because it makes so much more sense to collaborate and we don't need to compete against each other and take resources from each other, which in a lot of times is the source of conflict and ultimately of war. So long story short, JEDI is a decentralized global brain. We will use Web3 incentive mechanisms and technological infrastructure to enable the knowledge exchange of the global world in an inclusive and unbiased way. But we are still at the beginning at the moment. We're just like feeding in a lot of conference data from conferences like artificial general intelligence, cybersecurity.
It's really cool because when you just look at this small use case of having the conferences and lots of people go there, lots of money goes in there to host it, to go there, the tickets, everything. So you also make, when you just start with this use case and look at it, what it can do for the conference itself, it makes it way more profitable in the sense, way more engaging in the outcome of such conferences. Sometimes, of course, outcome is not measurable in the sense, oh, I met someone, I made a connection, I built my network. Maybe you cannot listen to each and every speaker session. You cannot participate in every panel because some are running in parallel. But overall, you can have access to this big knowledge, like at this conference, accessible at once in a structured way afterwards. So when you look into all the Web3 conferences, they will be way more accessible and in the sense of profitable by having access to the knowledge. So this is, I think it's a really cool use case. And lots of speakers have like technical input and maybe overlapping, or one is talking about a topic which has synergies with another topic, but you can't really see that because they don't connect. Having this afterwards as like a wrap up or something and access to all these sources is, and not just Web3 conferences, this is just an example. But if you expand this and like you said, the global knowledge brain, it's like crazy. Yeah.
And while I really love in-person conferences, sometimes you could think about people who just have young children. For them, it's not so easy to travel to Paris to Blockchain Week just for 3 days and leave their family at home. And they can also participate. And you don't have to spend 3 days on site to still get the essence of what was discussed at these conferences. You can just query the data and ask the chatbot. We call it the Chatham agent. Because it can basically go and give you back what you want to know. What was discussed about regulation? What was discussed about the latest zero knowledge proof technologies? What were opposing views? Where were heated discussion? All of these analytics we can run with the JEDI brain. And over time, we will decentralize the infrastructure in a way that each person can be a knowledge staker. You can basically stake knowledge and mine knowledge. Okay. We're thinking about models at the moment where we can have hardware that acts as microphone. Like the Bitcoin miners, you have the knowledge miners and participate, go and feed into the brain and get rewarded for that.
How do you see the synergies of blockchain and AI? Like, how will it develop in the future? And you already talked about it very much because I can see how you implement your background in blockchain and Web3. And now how can we use what I already know from blockchain incentive systems, or what is like kind of Web3 blockchain crypto native? And you put this ideas and concepts into your current AI project. So I see there are lots of synergies, but when you look into like really classic crypto space, and now that we are in a bull run, everyone is talking about AI coins and stuff like that. It seems very different to what your project is doing, but how would you see overall develop the synergies in the space between blockchain and AI? So what is your opinion or your outlook on that?
I think blockchain has a few features that can help AI projects. One of my favorite features is really the incentive mechanisms, because Web3, and this is why it's really so difficult for many female friends of mine to understand, is it's just a conglomerate of different fields of studies, right? You have the finance piece, then you have the economics piece, then you have the gaming piece and the tech piece. And so And that's why when you really understand blockchain, you have to, or the blockchain economy, the Web3 ecosystem, you have to understand all these disciplines. A lot is about finances and money. And what is really amazing is with blockchain, we have developed the incentive system, a very sophisticated incentive system to coordinate interests within a multi-stakeholder ecosystem in a trustless way. And the way to incentivize is the token, and the money. It's a monetary incentive. And that monetary incentive, or that incentive of quantifiable value, can be expressed any different ways. And now we're seeing nature coins, like asset-based coins, real-world assets-based tokens, tokens that are pegged to real currencies and have underlying other assets. So we're seeing a lot of different things. So I think when you think about a decentralized global brain, how would you keep the balance of all the different actors contributing? How can you design a system in which everyone feels like it's fair to contribute because they have something, they get a return on contributing something, and that something is needed by the other players in the ecosystem. And technologically and also mathematically, I think blockchain is starting to have really interesting models of it. And now with AI, we can do much better simulations of all the different scenarios that could happen. So you will become much better, I think, in simulating token ecosystems, closed token ecosystems, than you could have done in the past bull run, where we saw a lot of crashes. I don't know, Luna was a crash. Then there was this other SDG kind of company, KlimaDAO, had a crash because they didn't model and simulate their economic complexities in a good way. So that we can now do with AI, but we can use the blockchain incentive mechanisms and governance mechanisms, like mechanisms that design how everyone can contribute to the voting and to the shaping of the ecosystem. That can be done in a much more sophisticated way now with AI. But it originally really comes from the ideas of democracy or participation in Web3. Then what else? You are the expert in zero knowledge proofs. There's a lot of things we can now do with identity, and how do we have decentralized identity and make sure that we put only things that we need to know into the system, or we only pull the data that we need to know to execute a transaction. And that's what Web3 brings into AI. And also cryptography. Currency is based on cryptography. So there we have advanced mechanisms that have been tested also over now 15 years that work, and that could be scaled out to other AI-driven ecosystems. I would really think I'm quite enthusiastic about this idea of having decentralized marketplaces, or marketplaces of decentralized agents that all operate with each other. So a system of interoperability that is driven not by humans, but by agents that act and execute transactions on behalf of human beings. So me having 1,000 agents that represent all my needs and interest in all different kind of scenarios. But that sounds a bit weird, but in my view, it's not unlikely that it's gonna happen within the next 5 years. That we have these, and how do you automate all the paybacks of the ecosystem on micro level? Because each transaction might be 0.001 cents. It's not making sense to do a bank transaction with that. So with the smart contract and so on, you can just pre-program the logic of economic exchange. So I think we can think that there will be a lot of innovations, even for us, for Jedi, of how do we incentivize and build up that ecosystem where contributing to knowledge and expertise is a meaningful and rewarding activity, and where collaborating will give you also, in a quantified manner, better economic outcomes than competing only with others. And that will make ecosystem allocation more efficient. But how we're going to model that and so on, this is something we need to still research within the next 6 months.
Yeah, it's really interesting also, because right now, what we also saw Web2 socials, you have these centralized entities who are in power of your accounts and everything. And the same is currently also when you look at the big AI companies owning the models, training the models, of course, which consumes resources, monetary resources. but still it's like a centralized mechanism. And I think with blockchain in the background, you can make AI accessible in a democratized and decentralized way. Yeah, I'm really curious where it's going, this
Yes.
overall narrative of this combining these technologies. If you would be like a mentor to a total beginner and they were listening and interested, what would you give them as advice or hint how to start? Because it can be really overwhelming in the beginning. And all the different words, it's also a different lingo, a different language you have to learn. But if you would be a mentor to a total newbie who's, oh, I'm so curious, but I don't know where to start, what would you give as advice and hints?
Yeah, I would start with an ecosystem map. So search for a map for whatever ecosystem, like Cardano ecosystem, Ethereum ecosystem, and look all the brands and players and start to understand what they offer to the ecosystem. Because by then you understand what are the main roles in that ecosystem. And then try to understand the value chain of the ecosystem. In blockchain, it is about, okay, how do I get my first crypto? I want to pay something in crypto, right? But then you have to think, how would I actually access my first crypto? Where would I store it? But then already when you start to think, how do I buy crypto? Look into exchanges. And then where do I store crypto? You like look into different encryption wallet and think, okay, what does it mean to store Bitcoin? It's not, is it then going to be in my wallet? But what does it mean to be in my wallet? So you follow the value chain from I acquire my first cryptocurrency, I store it somewhere, I exchange it. How do I get my cryptocurrency back into my bank account as a fiat currency? That's off-ramping. So along when you start to try to understand what happens, like how can I buy something in crypto? And how can I get my crypto back into my local currency? When you follow these steps and try to do it one with a microtransaction, then you start to understand the complexities and you start to understand the brands and what they stand for, what they offer to the ecosystem. That's always good. That's my number one. Start strategically. Look at the map, what is there, then try to follow that along a purpose. Always have a purpose. What do I want to do? I want to on-ramp crypto. I want to off-ramp crypto. And then the third thing is, the second thing is find really a buddy, someone who just go to a community event. There's many of them, and find someone with whom you have good vibe and start to follow and discuss with them all the questions. Because at least I feel for a lot of the people who've been with me in the ecosystem, that was a catalyst. It helps so much to have a human buddy to share all your worries, concerns, your speculative bets about where will Bitcoin be by April 15, all these kinds of things. It's fun to do it in community.
Yes, totally. I just can agree.
That's how we designed DLT Talent. So we thought about, okay, what do you really need to do first? And then in the first session, you basically do your first crypto transaction. We don't tell you how to, because also in every country it's different. But then people come back like, I've bought my first Ether.
Yeah, it's crazy. I just joined SheFi, which is run by Maggie Love, and it's amazing. And it's the same effect that you just described. It's this community effect. There's a Discord, like no question is a dumb question. And it starts exactly like that. And you go on quests, like creating wallets, buying some Ether and like minting some NFTs as a signal you have finished the quest or participated in the class. And it's just this journey and it's fun. And especially in this community setting, it's just what you said. It's amazing. I like it too. Yeah. More communities.
Yes,
inclusive communities.
Everybody comes to the castle. I'm gonna invite all the like the women community, the SheFi, the HerDAO, there's one with Mujahid.
Women in Web3.
Women in Web3, 1,000 faces, the Unstoppable Domain community. There's so many new women communities and everybody's doing such a good job, like in exciting people, but also educating so that people don't get lost in these Telegram bots and speculations and hacks and spam. And education is super important.
Yeah, that's true. I think we should make a list of all communities like available because I wasn't aware of all of them. I was starting to research some and to reach out to people, but maybe we should start like a ongoing a Google Sheet collecting all the communities, because I sometimes during my research, I feel like there are some, but still it's a little bit isolated. Imagine they would be all a little bit more interlinked and connected. This was just my gut feeling. I don't know if that is true, but I felt there are lots of initiatives starting a list of all available communities and bringing them together, because each and everything has like its own benefits, its own programs, its own initiatives which can benefit and bring synergies to each other. Maybe that's a nice thing.
Yes,
to do.
totally. And every initiative has a different culture. This is what I love about the blockchain ecosystem. When you look at the blue chip ecosystems, look at the Solana community, you look at the Cardano community, look at the Ethereum community, Bitcoin community. Each ecosystem, in a sense, to me, feels like a different nation state with their different value sets, their different ways of doing things, their different people that contribute to it. It's a different vibe, different culture. And all of them at the moment are a bit like separate islands. And the next step is to make them interoperable so that you have fluidity moving across the different islands. And I think we're on the way to do that. And with that, women communities, because they started a bit later, it will also take time, but I'm really optimistic about the future of women participation in tech.
Yeah. I think that's well said. Thank you so much for your time. That was a well-rounded ending. Thank you for being here, for sharing all your insights from all the different domains and bringing them all together. I really enjoyed talking to you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Laura. Keep rocking. I really enjoyed this. It was a very fun podcast. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. If you are keen on getting deeper insights about Web3 tech, our newsletter, Just the Metrics, is just what you need. It's packed with valuable information and it's completely free. You can subscribe by clicking the link in the video description. It's a great way to keep up with the latest in the Web3 space straight to your inbox. And before you go, please hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more updates and insights. Your support is what keeps these videos coming. So see you in the next video.